Cloudcast Media. Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. We are so pleased to have in the studio with us today Dr. Erhard Vogel. He is the founder of Natajara Ashram. How you doing there, Dr. Vogel?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Well, we're honored to have you on, and we're joined by our good friend, our curiosity shipper, Isha Walia. As you know, we don't do internships at Cloudcast. We do curiosity ships. She'll be an incoming junior at Northeastern University in Boston, and she's been a great co-host. Now, this is your fifth week doing it.
Fifth and final week.
We're going to miss you, but we hope you're going to be listening in when you're across the country. How's that sound?
Oh, 1,000%.
Very, very good. I know you have a question for Erhard.
Yeah, tell us, what's the mission of your organization?
Oh, well, thank you, first of all, for considering me a curiosity.
You are. That's a compliment, man.
The mission is to help humanity to become peaceful and successful in the real way, and to live the life that we all were given, but as the being that we really are, not as some false identity construct.
So you're going to be celebrating 50 years next year. Congratulations,
Yes.
By the way.
Thank you very much.
I bet in some ways it seems like it's been 50 minutes, and in some ways it's like 50 decades, correct?
It's more like 50 decades.
What gave you the motivation to start this? Yourself, your family, everything in between?
Oh, boy, you're asking the question that takes long.
That's okay. We got 3 hours. Unfortunately, we have 27 minutes. Or else we can't.
In very brief, I was born just at the beginning of World War II.
Yeah.
And when I was 5.5 years old, we were in a bomb raid, and we had experienced many of them with, scattered bodies all over the place, people being buried in their homes and what have you. And so one day we're in the cellar doing a bomb raid, and the bombs are getting right next to our house. And it's like, we know we're next. We're going to be killed. So we're in this basement, and there's chaos there and fear and screaming and so on. And I felt the fear in my stomach. Here I'm this boy, 5.5 years old, and I said, I don't want to be just taken over by the fear. I want to be stone cold clear when I'm going to die, when I'm going to be plastered against the wall. I want to experience how I am now and aware of myself. And in that awareness, I want to go into the next state, whatever is. I didn't have any idea. I had no teaching about this or anything. And so I made myself so stone cold clear that within myself, the lights came on, like from this total focus and deep concentration. The lights went on, and then the bomb hit our home and destroyed it. But we were under the stone arch of the cellar,
Wow.
pressed against the vacuum, and we survived. But there was a room several feet away from us. There were about a dozen people in there, and they were all dead.
Where was this?
This was in Germany, in the south of Germany.
South of Germany. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then from there, what was next?
Well, when the bomb hit, the lights really went on in me, and I was like completely at peace and completely aware of being present, being alive, being in the moment, just in consciousness. And with that, we went up the stairs, and our home was completely destroyed. We went outside, and I felt like I was floating. I was still in that complete state of luminosity, clarity. And I said, but I noticed that the things were going on, like there's a bird in the tree without leaves, the tree without leaves. And how's that bird still alive? And our laundry on the line was like just completely messed up with shrapnel and dirt. How could they do this to us? Our laundry. And but then I noticed from looking from one thing to the other, my complete depth of focus was being taken to these different places. So in other words, distraction, right? But I knew that I had this very beautiful experience of peace and complete security and inner joy and clarity. I had that through having focused so hard. So I decided I'm going to be in that state for all of my life.
Wow.
But I'm going to have to focus so hard to be in it.
So you have siblings?
Yes.
And you were 5.5, and how old were your siblings?
Well, my brother was 8, and my sister was 14 months younger than I.
Right. Wow. So now this hits, and you're sitting there, you're looking at your laundry, which is ruined, but you guys are alive, and you've got this inner focus coming from wherever. And then from there, how do you make it out of Germany?
Well, let me tell you first what happened next.
Please.
So I kept, every day, I exercised being really focused. I would look at
5.5.
At 5.5,
wow.
Because I wanted to be in this marvelous state. And that's what my life is for, to live like that, in that consciousness, in that clarity. So I continued that. And about 1.5 years later, I had another moment just like that, of that complete clarity and consciousness. And I said, well, okay, now I know it's from that focusing that I just have to continue. And that's how I got started. That was your question first. That's how I got started.
Right, but now you're 6.5, okay?
Right.
And then are you in Germany for the next year, 2 years, 4 minutes?
So until I'm 14.
Is that right?
Yeah.
My goodness.
So we're in the post-war Germany, and with years of starvation and so on. Our father didn't return from the war. He was in the war since the beginning on. He was a war correspondent. And so he got plowed under somewhere at the last few months of the war.
Wow. So you're there till you're 14.
Yeah.
And then from there, where do you go?
Then we come over to the United States, my mother and my 2 siblings and I.
Through Ellis Island? How did you get through here?
Regular, what do you call it? Passport.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Visa.
Gotcha. Right. Yeah. Okay. And did end up in New York? Where?
New York.
Okay.
New York State, about 1.5 hours out of the city.
Okay.
We stayed there. I went to high school there.
Okay.
Without knowing any English or anything.
My goodness, what a story. What a resilience. First of all, this is just an amazing story. Phenomenal. Is the book you wrote tied to this?
Which one?
The Dialogue with Death, The Teacher of Life?
Everything I do is tied with that.
Yeah.
So the book is, yes, that book is, like, to me, the definitive book as to how to live true to yourself. Because I think at heart, everybody wants that. And everybody wants to be fully conscious and wants to be at peace and so on. But how do we do it? There's specific things we need to learn. And I learned those things over the years of rigorous practice that I put myself through by myself. I had no teacher, no teachings, nothing.
Right, right. We're chatting with Dr. Erhard Vogel. He's the founder of Natajara Ashram. He's a master teacher of meditation and self-realization, the author of A Dialogue with Death, the Teacher of Life, an Ancient Story for the Modern World. I'm Drew Schlosberg, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast, here from the beautiful Mission-Fed Studios in Scripps Ranch. I am joined by my guest co-host, Isha Walia, who will be an incoming junior at Northeastern University in Boston. So, these life lessons, so to speak, to be who you are, you really got to understand yourself, do you not?
That's what it's all about, is to know your real identity, who you really are. Because most people live an identity that they were told they should be.
Right.
And the whole society is
Right.
part of that and so on. But that has nothing to do with our real identity. As a consequence, then, we dedicate our life
Right.
to somebody who we're not. Then, of course, we feel left out. We feel empty. And we live in one of the wealthiest nations in the world.
We do.
But you walk around the streets here and look at people's faces, and you can see anxiety, anger, fear, and all of that. You don't see many people who look peaceful and happy and so on.
No, you're spot on that. I'll tell you what's interesting, what you just brought up. I think a lot of it has to do, to say the least, of how you were raised and how you're brought up. Obviously, your story is an incredibly harrowing one. I have some connection to it. My dad fought in World War II.
Really?
He fought in the Pacific, and he's from New York. He grew up in the Bronx, went to NYU, and became a medical doctor. Made it out here to L.A. and all that stuff. But it's really interesting because, my dad was a medical doctor, my mom an artist. I didn't care what I did. As long as you're happy and healthy, just do what you want to do.
Yeah.
So I became a journalist and so forth, and now podcaster, which there was no such thing as a podcaster back in the day on that. But don't you think a lot of that has to do with, your upbringing and, the course your parents say, do what you need to do and have fun?
Well, for us as children, there was no having fun.
For you guys.
We had to survive into the next day.
Absolutely.
But we did have fun. Nevertheless, children have fun no matter what happens.
Right. There's no question about that. Isha, I know you have a question for Erhard.
Yeah, tell us more about your organization's community outreach efforts.
Well, we're a nonprofit organization, so we have offered our courses like in hospitals, people who are working with the dead, or just retreats for just doctors and nurses and so on. I worked in the local jail for a couple of years, where once a week I would go in and teach a yoga class, and I accumulated quite a bit of a following. Well, I guess you could call it a captive audience, but a lot of them were there, and it was very successful. So we do a lot of workings to help our community and help individuals to live a life that is meaningful and successful in a real way. When I say real, it means lasting, not, okay, right now I'm successful, but any moment it can change, where you become successful independent of circumstances and conditions because it's happening within you,
Now, that's not necessarily a Western philosophy, is it? Western philosophy is, how do we stress ourselves out so we go crazy, correct?
Yeah, well, I'm a Western person. I was born in the West and live in the West and so on.
Understand. I was too.
though there are other nations like in India where what I'm talking about is focused on more, and it's more part of the common society. Here, when you ask people, for example, who are you? What's your identity? And if you ask your neighbors or your family, they say, what's the matter with you? Are you okay? Right? They don't give you an answer as to who they really are.
Right. There's no question about it. And in that vein, I know one of our frequent guest hosts, you just missed him, Neville Billamoria. I'm not sure if you know Neville. He's a senior VP of marketing, communications, community relations for Mission Fed from India. Totally believes in what.
I met him outside. Yes,
I said, I'm hoping you guys meet each other because he is you and you are him. For 75 different reasons. In this area. So you brought up something. Listen, that I don't think. I've read more about how stressful a nation we are, or how distressed we are ever in my lifetime than it is right now.
Yeah.
Now, whether it's social media or whether it's the craziness going on with our politics or everything in between, climate change, but it is very, very serious. And we need what you do more than anything in this world to calm our kids down, because we've never seen our kids so stressed ever. At least in my lifetime.
I fully agree with you, and I really feel that this kind of what I'm teaching should be in grade school.
100%.
Because that's where kids grow up. And
100%.
that's where they're most alert about what am I doing in this life? What am I going to do? And even who am I? What am I? And so on.
So spot on. It's basically a no-brainer. I spent 11 and a half years working for San Diego Unified, being a journalist first, and then back into doing this type of stuff. But we can't do enough of these types of programs. The gentleman we had on right before you, I don't know if you had a chance to meet him, but I think you and him would have a great synergy. Vinod Lobo, CEO of Learning Upgrade. They basically teach learning through music in the mobile phone. And in what did they say? 25 hours. They've have actually raised the bar. Data-driven group, but I love this conversation we're having on here in this vein. We'll come back from break. I want to talk a little bit more about this aspect of it. What do you recommend for parents? Okay, for that aspect, kids as well, our teachers in the schools. And then we also want to save some time talking about the event coming up on the 11th of September. I know that's something that's important to you. And then what our listeners can do to support your efforts when we return with Dr. Erhard Vogel, the founder of Natajara Ashram. He's a master teacher of meditation and self-realization and the author of A Dialogue with Death, a teacher of life, an ancient story for the modern world. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show here on Mission Fed's beautiful studio and Scripps Ranch. We'll be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast. We're now in our 17th year broadcast from the Mission Fed studios here in Scripps Ranch and Mission Fed. Just doing great things in our community for more than 60 years. Honored to have in the studio with us Dr. Erhard Vogel. He is the founder of Natajara Ashram. He's also a master teacher of meditation and self-realization and an author of A Dialogue with Death, the teacher of life, an ancient story for the modern world. Joined by my co-host, Isha Walia, an incoming junior at Northeastern University in Boston. And Isha, I know you have another question for Erhard.
Yes, you have an open house coming up pretty soon on September 11th. Tell us more about that and how people can get involved.
Well, the open house, the openness is an invitation to the public to join us at the graduation of a class that has gone through a meditation series for 2 months. But we have a new series every 2 months, and people just go from series to series. But at the end of one particular series, we will always have a celebration of graduation, because I think it's a very unusual and wonderful thing that people value themselves sufficiently to say, I'm going to do something about myself. And so these are people who want to take responsibility for their life and not to be dependent upon circumstances and conditions like the ones you're mentioning there, Drew. You know, we have now constant crisis. We live in constant crisis. And that can eat you up, actually physically eat you up inside through the neurological system, through the circulatory system, heart and everything. So what I teach is what is called the Expert in Life program. And I called it that to pay attention to the fact that, okay, we all have to lead our life. But would you rather lead your life as a dummy who's uninformed or as somebody who's expert? What are you worth? Are you worthy of being an expert to make use of all of the faculties that you have? Like we have a wonderful mind, the human being. It's not evident sometimes in the way things are in the world, but we have a great mind. We have emotions, feelings, intellect, intuition, senses, even the body. They're all our instruments. What relationship do we have with them? How well do we know them? You ask people about their feelings, and half the population is reputed not to have any. That's men, which isn't true, actually.
It's not true at all.
Right? But, that's the
100%,
reputation, right?
100%.
But we have so much, and we're now bombarded with so many crisis situations that we really got to get it together. But we always have to get it together, because if not, when we're not living our own life, we're living against ourselves and we're depriving ourselves. So it helps to be expert to say, okay, I know how my mind functions, and I have established a conscious relationship with my own mind where it works for me, not me running after it all the time, right? And the same thing for our feelings. They are wonderful sources of information for us, how we're doing in this world, how we're relating to it, and so on. We got to get to know about them in depth. What's happening in the subconscious compared to just the outer consciousness? How can I have a relationship with that? Because that's a powerful source of influence within us that decides a lot of what we do, when it's not necessarily based on rationality. It's based on old stuff that's there for a long, long time and influences us,
Yeah. So on the September 11, if people want to show up as a guest, do they just give Pam a call? Is that the best way of doing it?
That's right. Yeah, call Pam Reed at Natajara Ashram, and she'll tell you everything that you need to know to be able to attend there. And it's a free event.
Right.
And but it's by appointment only, because we have to control the amount of people coming in.
Right, yeah. Pam's number is 858-395-4033 if you want to give her a shout on this and so forth. You brought up something that is just, when people take a step back and start thinking about these things, which in our world we don't do enough of. We don't do any reflection, for God's sake. We're moving on to something else before we even get a chance to even. Right. Shouldn't I be enjoying what I just did, for God's sake? What the heck's the matter with me? I'm off into something else. I remember, one of the things we went through, some of the upper level managers at the Union Tribune, was Steve Covey's 7 Habits of Leadership. It was actually really good. It was a 4 and 9.5 hour back-to-back seminars. And as our CEO said, you will not be bringing your cell phones to these meetings. Okay, you'll be paying attention. But they're actually pretty good. There was a lot of things you learn from that, the emotional bank account and so forth. But you do have a lot of choices, So you shouldn't say, I can't go to this. No, you can go to this. You just don't want to go to this. Right?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. It's always, I always say, before you say I can't,
right?
Consider your choices.
Of course.
Because it's your choice. I can't is your choice.
100%. And if I've learned anything from that, and I catch myself at this, and I try to talk to Sammy about this a little bit, my daughter, and of course, sometimes, and I love my daughter to death and all that, but sometimes you don't necessarily listen to your parent. You might listen to the person down the street over here. Hey, you hear what that guy said over here? I've been telling you that for 10 years, for God's sake, But listen, that's part of parenthood, and that's all good. And my daughter, I just love her to death, and she's brilliant and bright and all that. But I do try to say every once in a while, but you do have choices. And it's okay to say you can't do X because you choose to do Y.
Right.
Because guess what? You did have a choice in that. Talk about how much that relieves stress when you realize, oh, okay, I'm okay saying I don't want to do this because I'm making a choice.
Well, the first thing is that you're not a victim. A victim is disempowered by the people or forces around or above them. And as you are responsible to yourself, that's the whole thing, that you're responsible to yourself. And when you know real self, you also know real power and ability and clarity for thinking and consciousness. So taking that responsibility and then establish a way of thinking and living where you're living as the self, not the old papier-mâché thing that was introduced before, you know?
Right. No, that sounds good. Isha, I know you have another question for Erhard.
Yeah, tell us, what can our Spotlight on the Community show listeners do to support you?
Well, they can support themselves. I mean, that would support our work, right? And if they want to, well, for one thing, find out about us. You can get more information by calling Pam, or you can get more information by Googling the ashram or my name. There's a lot of stuff on there which will come up. So, and of course, we're nonprofit, and sometimes we receive donations when people recognize how important this is.
Yeah, and I hope you have a big donate button on your website. Is it as big as the page itself?
I actually don't know.
Yeah, right. Well, listen, we know because we've been doing the show now since 2007, and I tell people, don't be shy. Money isn't everything, but it turns on lights, and it enables you to do great programs for people that don't have the resources to do it. So never discount how important money is on this aspect of it.
I'll give you an example. A few days ago this week, I had somebody to fix the roof on my, I have a small office building at the ashram, and there were shingles and they were off and so on. So he came in the heat and spent a few hours fixing the roof, and then he left. And I called him up and I said, what happened? I didn't get a bill. He says, there's no charge. I said, how can that be? He says, well, you're doing such important work for all of us in our community. I want to contribute to it. That is more important to me than getting money for it.
That's giving me goosebumps. And you know what? What that gentleman did, a lot of people, certainly, he got more satisfaction out of doing that and not charging you than he did than doing that. What an absolute joy chatting with you, Erhard. I appreciate that, and this won't be the last time we'll have you back on. We'll always like to have return appearances by the folks that have come on, and maybe somewhere down the road in October you can talk about how the September 11th event went and so forth. Mm-hmm. And if you want to bring in someone without trying to breach confidentiality that has benefited from what you folks do, we love having clients come in and talk about, man, this was great, and I encourage other people to do the same.
Great, yes.
So consider that. And I know Pam will be in touch with me and I'll get you some of other dates. Any final comments?
Love yourself and respect yourself to give yourself the life you really want. It's up to you. It's your choice.
100%. It really is. Dr. Erhard Vogel, founder of Natajara Ashram, master teacher of meditation and self-realization. An honor having you. We'll look forward to having you make a return appearance.
Well, I thank you very much. I enjoyed being with you.
Very, very good. I'm Drew Schlosberg. You've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in our 17th year. Isha Walia, you got one more to go.
One more left.
Exactly. And certainly, we hope our listeners enjoyed the show.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.